Ladies and gentlemen, hello there, and welcome to another edition of the Mr. Warren Hayes Show. I am Mr. Warren Hayes. I don't know what you've heard. I don't know who you think. Some other dude on another channel saying, I am Warren A. Hayes. I don't know if you think that person is. We're going to clear the room, clear the air. I am Mr. Warren Hayes. Have I heard that someone else has been trying to pass themselves off as me? No. But, just in case, call it a preemptive strike. Just in case someone would decide to do that. Just so you know, I'm the original. The first. Just so we're clear. Welcome, everyone. It's Thursday night. It is May 6, 2021. Thank you, everyone, for showing up tonight on this live recording of my pro wrestling discussion podcast right here on youtube.com/MrWarrenHayes, where we record Thursday evenings, 9 p.m. Eastern, sharp. Like I said, every Thursday night, we're here and we're recording in front of a live audience, a live crowd. Or at least a live chat, let's put it that way, but it's a crowd. There's a bunch of people who tune in, come on in and join in the chat and hang out this evening and chat amongst themselves and also add to the conversation, like Robert Larry. How you doing, Robert? Good to see you. Kelly Torres is here as well. Good to see you, Kelly. Tim Trevor, how you doing? Mr. Fretz is here as well. Nice to see you. We've got Phantomark82. By the way, the supply, if you are watching the live stream and you were here for the pre-roll, our boy Ben, Phantomark82, he supplies me with all sorts of great music. He also has the jingle for the weekly wrestling inspection. He's the guy behind all of that. So you should subscribe to his YouTube channel because that's where he posts all his new material, all his great material. He's a fantastic musician. Thank you very much again, Ben, for loaning me all the music out of the kindness of your heart. So the least that y'all can do is follow him. That's the least you could do. So thank you very much for being here nonetheless, Phantomark Ben. I appreciate it. Evan Wright is here too. Hello, Evan. Anakin JMT has joined us as well. DGMC, Aaron Entertainment. No, it's not the Warren Lucian show. What is that? I just told you I'm Warren Hayes. I did a whole bit on it. Rick Poling is here. Good to see you. Welcome, sir. And Carlos is here as well. Sports and Things shows. Nice to see you. Oh, goodness gracious. Mr. Fantastic just showed up. Everyone's here. The crew is here. It's a good time. Welcome, everyone, to the chat. I'm so glad that everyone is here tonight. It's always warming. And if you're already enjoying what you're seeing so far, please give the video a thumbs up here on youtube.com/MrWarrenHayes. And if you're listening to this on your favorite podcast application, by the way, thank you very much. I make a big deal out of the Thursday night recordings because, it's always nice to see all these people here show up and so on and so forth. So, I do want to take some time to thank them for coming here. But thank you, podcast listeners, for tuning in and listening to my own little rambling takes whenever you decide to listen to this. I appreciate it a great deal. And show us some love there as well. A review, a like, a subscription, whatever. Follow. It's all good. And if you haven't listened to the Mr. Warren Hayes Show podcast and you're like, oh, this is available as a podcast, yeah, you have Apple, Stitcher, Spotify, Google. You'll be able to find it. It's everywhere. It's not a problem. Speaking of podcasts, I was on the Wrestling Unplugged and Undeniable podcast. Let me repeat that. Wrestling Unplugged and Undeniable podcast. I was invited there by Jesse Velasquez, who was one of the hosts of the show. I acted as a co-host, I guess. I popped in because his usual co-host wasn't there. So he invited me on. We talked about wrestling for a long bit. It was a good time. It was a lot of fun. And Jesse's a guy, we go back a while. So I'm really glad that I was able to jump on his podcast. It was very kind of him to invite me. So go check it out. Wrestling Unplugged and Undeniable. It's a good time. Bell2Bells.com is also a good time for all your women's wrestling coverage over at bell2bells.com. That's BELLTOBELLES. Don't forget to head on over there. Don't forget that we also have a Discord. The link is in the description. Lots of great discussions going on there. And Speaking of discussions, if you're listening to this after the live stream, leave some comments below. We're still barreling down the road to in our comment streak. We're looking for 20 comments on the next 20 videos. Our streak is up to 6 right now. So let's keep that alive, folks. Let's drop a comment, get into the discussion right here on this video. I appreciate it. That's a great way to show a fantastic way to show some support for the MrWarrenHayes Show. Another great way to show support for the MrWarrenHayes Show is become a channel member. And starting tonight, if you are a channel member of the MrWarrenHayes Show, not only do you get the great emojis that you can use in the live chat, the emotes and whatnot, but you also will now be able to take part in the post stream. It is the YouTube debut of Warren is Off the Clock, the post stream, where I sit around with you guys and I chat with you either on the Discord or live in the chat. If you're a channel member, you will be able to pop in and really have some discussions with me and the rest of the community that hangs out as well. And tonight I'm going to be doing something that I haven't done in a long while. I'll be breaking down the major shows this week. Raw, SmackDown, Dynamite, segment by segment. Of course, I won't go super in depth or else I'd be there for another 3 hours, but we'll hang around and we'll talk about it, give some impressions, and it will be fantastic. So if you ever wanted to become a channel member right here on youtube.com, it's the time to do it tonight, because that's what we're doing right after the show here. So please join us. And the Patreon is still around if you want to support there. And you can also drop a super chat and I will read your question or comment on the air. But as for now, you know what we're doing? We're getting right into the thick of the action. Just diving right in with the weekly wrestling inspection. Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. Yes, people. We're going to start talking some New Japan professional wrestling this week. We're going to start with that. First and foremost, look, we're talking about New Japan because we had the Wrestling Dontaku shows that happened this week, night 1, night 2, and I guess it was a bit of a cursed show. I mean, both nights, for a bunch of reasons. Night 1 I didn't think was a great show. Night 2 had one fantastic show, one fantastic match, but on top of that, a bunch of wrestlers were pulled from the card because of COVID concerns. Kazuchika Okada, Minoru Suzuki, El Desperado, Kanemaru, Sho, and Yo were all taken off night 2 of the Wrestling Dontaku match. It was a bummer. In it. Especially for El Desperado, again, I'm fearful that his reign is going to be a little marred by mishaps and sidewinds and whatnot. Sucks for Yo too, who had the shot at the junior title. Kind of a bummer. So they did what they could with the staff that were on hand, to the wrestlers that were on hand to try and shift things around. But, there's another advisory. There's another state of emergency. I mean, in Japan that forced New Japan to cancel some shows and revisit some policies for their dome shows that are coming up. So look, a bummer, but I mean, you always want to err on the side of caution. And I saw some websites report that Kazuchika Okada and El Desperado, was it El Desperado, or naming wrestlers who had contracted COVID, who tested positive for COVID. New Japan never released the names of the wrestlers who had tested positive. They were all removed because of concerns for exposure, essentially. So it's not as if any of these guys were positive. They were exposed at the very least. So that's why they were pulled, following their own protocols. All right, that's fine. But I mean, night 1 happened nonetheless. It's still a show that occurred. And is my stream messing up? I'm getting let me just double check here. Getting some messages from folks that are live, but I'm just going to proof really quickly here. Sorry if everything is running okay for y'all. I'm just going to make sure that it is indeed running okay. Because everything seems cool. Looks like it might be a little uneven for some of you, right? Because everything seems to be working really fine. My resources are not being maxed out. All right. Well, I apologize if you're running into issues. Things should iron out soon. I apologize. Let's go to night 1 of Wrestling Dontaku. I mentioned it. I talked about it. It was not a great night for professional wrestling in New Japan professional wrestling. I'm not going to go through the undercard, the multi-man matches. You know, there were a couple of bright spots in there, but I'm not. Here's the thing. I'm going to talk about 2 matches we had, which were your 2 the semi-main event and the main event. The semi-main event was the Iron Finger from Hell ladder match. The match was essentially, it was Taichi versus Tama, who had been feuding over Takashi Iizuka's Iron Fingers gimmick. He had a glove, an iron finger that he'd used. And he had, as a former member of Suzuki, when he retired, he bestowed the fingers onto Taichi, who was a member of Suzuki-gun. And then Tama got a hold of him, and this match. So they suspended the fingers, the glove, the iron glove. Let's call it what it is. I hate calling it the fingers. Okay, it doesn't sound natural, or it sounds like it's something else. But they suspended it over the ring in a one of these bags, these tote bags that some places give you when you go shopping, and they're transparent, they're see-through, so that you can't just stuff things in your bag and try to steal them. You know what I'm talking about? That's what it looked like. They suspended it over the ring, and it was your a ladder match. Now, Taichi was a full-blown babyface here against Tama Tonga, and Taichi won he won the iron glove, the fingers, but this was not good. It just was not good. Doki had some really good moments because there was all sorts of interference throughout the match. Doki, Jado, it was, and of course Tonga Loa. It was all over the place. I like this kind of match. This is going to sound very elitist, and I'm aware of what I'm going to say right now. Like, I'm fully aware of what I'm about to say. But this kind of match, this type of booking doesn't belong in New Japan. This is not what I watch New Japan for. Like, we were much closer. This was booked like a North American promotion match with all the run-ins and the shenanigans and there's no rules, so we're going to have all these people pull off all these moves. And it's just distracting, takes you away from the action. And even as a standalone ladder match, this was not good. Even whether it was in New Japan or not, if you like ladder matches, I don't think you'll sit back and watch this match and be like, hey, this is a good ladder match, because it wasn't. Now, as I was saying, Doki had some really good moments. He took the bigger spots of the evening. Like, he took a power bomb off the apron through a ladder that was set up outside the ring. That was a great spot. And I would like to take a minute here to just talk about how much Doki has grown, not in size, but in he's not taller. But as far as talent goes, as far as his in-ring goes, as far as his confidence in wrestling on such a high level, he's grown tremendously. Wild. You know, you take him away from Master Wato and the guy improves. I'm just, ragging unnecessarily on Master Wato because he's one of my targets. I like him. He's fun. But this match was not fun. And it was a 27 minute match. This was bad. It was not a good match. And I've mentioned this a couple of times. And I hear the discourse out there as well. And I'm unfortunately starting to lean in this more. But this was a very North American style. This was very North American style booking. And poorly executed, but the style was there. And you hear the rumblings that more and more, that as New Japan wants to enter the North American market, specifically the American market, and that they're looking for TV deals, the people who are the executives from the networks are like, what do they know about wrestling? What do they know? What's their number one comparison? Well, WWE. They're like, well, do you give us something like WWE? Well, New Japan probably goes, well, not quite. We're not exactly WWE. We do sports. And they're like, well, we want the WWE thing. So I kind of fear this theory that New Japan might be adapting what they're doing to get to an eventual television deal. I'm not a fan of that. Not a fan of that. And this might be more proof to that pudding there. Anyway, it was a bad match. It really, really was. And in the main event, Jay White defeated Hiroshi Tanahashi to become the new Never Openweight champion. Jay White then would be the first, he said, the Grand Slam champion or quadruple belt champion in the history of New Japan. The Never title, the US title, the IC title, and the heavyweight title, formerly the IWGP heavyweight title. So, good for him. Congratulations, Jay White. One of the mascots of the MrWarrenHayes show, of course. A deep appreciation for what he does. I still think he's the greatest heel in the world. This was a 40-minute match. 40-plus minute match. It was like 43, 45, something like that. And I don't like the ongoing narrative that New Japan matches are so the main events they're way too long. There's a lot of people who like to bitch about that because I don't necessarily mind long matches. But this one, in this 40-some minute match, you had a fantastic 20-minute match. You really did. It started off great with both guys starting to work on each other's knees. And then on top of that, you have a great history between Jay White and Hiroshi Tanahashi that you can go into really, really easily. They're nemeses. They're each other's nemeses. And Tanahashi has a losing record against Jay White. Jay White has this legend's number, and it pisses Tanahashi off to no extent. So you already have that fueling this match. You get into it, they go at it, they're working on each other's knees, and boy, was there a lot of that. And as good and quick as this match started, it didn't even start with your typical Jay White stalling at first. As quick as this match started, it just dragged for the longest time. Both working on each other's knees the whole time. And I complained about it on Twitter and said, okay, usually I don't say a thing about these matches, but this is too long. This is really, really too long. Then I get people come back to me saying, but this is psychology. And this is a trend I'm seeing more and more from people who are trying to defend matches that are legitimately going too long, that are being stretched out. Oh, it's psychology, pal. Well, I can still have psychology in an exciting match, in a nicely tightly wound package, like the next match I'm going to talk about in a few minutes. Psychology isn't an excuse for slowing things down. And I feel like this is the go-to now. It's the go-to because then it's like, well, I understand ring psychology. And I understand ring psychology too. You don't have to walk me through how wrestling stories aren't hard to understand. You don't need a master's degree. This isn't fucking Shakespeare that we're analyzing. You know, we're not going through Art Nouveau performance theater trying to dissect what they're trying to say. It's a pro wrestling match. It's a simple formula to get into. Like when people say, there's too many people on AEW, it's going to confuse people. Jesus Christ. We need 12 minutes of recaps per hour because people are going to get confused. Really? Are people really that dumb? Are people really that dumb? But anyway, I got off track here. The point here is that this wasn't a terrible match. It wasn't a bad match, but it was long. It was needlessly long. And it could have been wrapped up sooner with the same level of great psychology that we had there. But I'm glad Jay White won the title. I think it's cool. And look at what they're doing with the Never title. Again, something that was like when they were going to hang up the IC title, I said, look, they've put the title on Shingo, on Tanahashi, the Never title. Shingo, Tanahashi, what are they doing? They're elevating the title. This is going to be your new secondary belt. It's not just going to be the mid-card title. It's going to be, it's not going to be just the mid-card title. It's going to be your secondary title. Want to say hello to a bunch of people who just jumped in. 5th generation Carney Joseph with it. How you doing? Welcome to the chat. Obscurity Knox. Good to see you. And welcome to the chat as well. And Justin Firestein, nice to see you, sir. Welcome as well. And Anakin JMT left us a super chat. Thank you very much. Anakin, he says, are you saying that New Japan's deal with Roku TV isn't a TV deal? Yes, I will say that. It's so weird. I don't quite understand. It's something, but it's definitely not as cool as what MLW's picked up with Vice, for instance, But no, like a recap show, no, come on, man. Come on. Let's move on to night 2 of Dontaku as well. Again, skipping through the mid-card, the lower card, the mid-card. They were scrambling for replacements. It was what it was. And I'm going to say here, without a single ounce of irony, sarcasm, this week, Wrestling Dontaku Night 2 produced one of the greatest wrestling matches I have ever seen. And I'm not even kidding. When Will Ospreay successfully defended his IWGP World Championship against Shingo Takagi. This was everything I love in a wrestling match, from top to bottom. You've got charismatic over wrestlers. You've got unyielding action. You've got great psychology. And you've got drama that is maintained throughout a 40-some minute match that felt 20. The complete opposite of the main event the night before. There was so much great stuff here. There were counters back and forth between both of these guys for the first part of the match, where I'd say Ospreay did a good amount of damage to Shingo. But this was nothing like their New Japan Cup match. It was an entirely different match. Ospreay sold like a madman. Shingo catches Ospreay's leg and then does a kickstand flip and just flips him over. And Ospreay does a full revolution, lands on his back. Then there was that fantastic sequence that led from Ospreay hitting a disaster kick that led into Shingo clobbering him with a sliding D. There's of course there was the spots, right? But it wasn't all about the spots in this match. But you had Shingo hitting Made in Japan off the apron through a table where I just lost my mind. And the match was halfway done. It was only halfway done at that point. Shingo even, he was in control for a while. He eats 2 Oz cutters. They start laying into each other with some vicious lariats. And my God, Ospreay at some point, crazy back elbow. Shingo, he hits an Oz cutter himself, a pumping bomber. And like I said, there were the spots, but there was the little things. And oftentimes, it's the little things that'll make things awesome, right? Like, Shingo gets lifted up for a Stormbreaker attempt. He rolls out of it, off the shoulder, but as he does, he's grabbing Ospreay's wrist. He gets down and still holding wrist control the whole way through, sets him up for a Death Valley Driver attempt. Was it a Death Valley Driver or Last of the Dragon? It was either one. So fantastic. And just little things. At some point, like the guys are dead. They're exhausted. They're spent. They're burnt. You don't know. They're running on fumes. And at some point, Ospreay covers Shingo. And Red Shoes counts 1, 2, but he stops the count. Shingo didn't kick out. It's just Shingo's arm was under the ring ropes, which technically is a break. But Shingo didn't put his arm there. He just landed like that. I was like, my God, this is great. The guys can't even, they can't even get out of each other's moves. Ospreay hits a rainmaker. He hits a rainmaker. Knowing who's coming down the line in the dome for him in just a couple of weeks. And that final hidden blade that he hit before the Stormbreaker was ridiculous. This match was fantastic. And this is where you combine psychology with action. And this is where I'm like, I don't need 20 minutes of rest holds to make me understand what's going on. These guys were both delivering punishment to each other, and they were all running on fumes. Both of them were completely out of it, yet always managed to find a little something to continue on. Hell, Ospreay at some point couldn't even pull moves. He was just collapsing in the ring. Couldn't lift Shingo at some point because he was too tired. This, I'm going to tell you on top of all of this, these are 2 guys who work incredibly well. As much as I raved about the New Japan Cup final that they had, this was better and umpteen times better, which is what the other one was a match of the year for me. And at this stage, this is my match of the year. I haven't seen a better match this year so far. I'll be damned if I do. I'll let myself be surprised. Look, we have the G1 isn't done yet, right? We have a G1. We're not even close to starting the G1 yet. Well, I'm going to reserve anything, but as it stands right here. And here's the thing. This is what I want to talk about. I'm getting off track again. Ospreay and Shingo they have right now a compelling sports-centered feud, just like I love them. Because they have very similar careers in New Japan. Both of them came in as juniors. They've competed and won the Best of Super Juniors tournaments. And they both rose into the heavyweight division at the same time as well. But right now, Ospreay, he holds one extra victory. As far as I could tell on my research, one extra victory on top of Shingo. It's 2-1 for these guys. So right here, you have the makings of a real compelling feud that New Japan loves to develop and that you can go back to at any time, pull the history out, and get us excited about, because they're delivering ace matches, S-tier matches, within an environment, within a story of two junior heavyweights that graduated to the heavies and have been having fantastic careers. Shingo, maybe not as prestigious as Ospreay so far. I'm still maintaining, right now, Shingo Takagi is the Wrestler of the Year 2021. And I will make a compelling case for that if this keeps down the road, even if he hasn't won a title. As he has had nothing but pristine matches so far. Will Ospreay has become a cornerstone of New Japan in 2021. The United Empire, for fuck's sake, is the most interesting thing that is in New Japan right now. They're the glue as it stands. Everything that they do has personality. It's interesting. It's cool. And Ospreay's at the top, is helming this. He's guiding this down. Shingo and Ospreay, man, we've got the making. I don't want to go into superlative territory here. I don't want to start making weird comparisons, but we do have. I feel it. I feel it in my fucking bones. We have the makings of something that could be as special as an Okada Omega feud. I really, really do. So I'm telling you guys and gals right now, do yourselves a favor, treat yourselves and watch this match. This is one of these where it goes beyond go out of your way to see this match. It's like stop everything, call in sick, babysit the kids, tell the wife to go shopping, tell the husband to go to the bar, whatever it takes. It will be worth, even if it's just 1 month that you subscribe to New Japan World, just to watch this match. It will be worth it. This is what it is. It's one of the greatest matches I've ever seen. And I didn't even put up some cool beans for it. What am I doing? Is this my first night doing this show? I kind of feel like I should have created another label, because this is bigger than cool beans. What's bigger than cool beans? Wrestling Dantaku 2021 will go down in history as being a one-match event. Everything else is okay to absolutely forgettable. Like nothing really happened. But here, oh my God, this, so good. It was so good. And yes, Anakin, I did read your super chat. Sorry you missed my eloquent response. Let's move over to Friday Night SmackDown. Daniel Bryan, he lost to Roman Reigns, and he's hitting the bricks. He's out of SmackDown. He's going home. Hit the showers. Yeah, small smelly man. He's done. Okay, let's talk about the match first and foremost. My opinion, very strong television match. I preferred by far their Fastlane match that they had earlier this year. It's probably one of my favorite WWE matches this year. I thought it absolutely fantastic. Outside of the ending. But a very, very good match. But it was back to the technical versus power stuff. And Roman's, you remember at Fastlane, Roman decided to go down more grounded, technical submission style. Not that he didn't use it, but he didn't rely on it as heavily in this match. It was like, yo, I almost lost last time. I'm not screwing around with this time around kind of thing, you know? Roman had to, he still had to struggle with D-Bry, who was working his arm. He was working Roman's arm the entire time. But, you know, fun spots, albeit, your typical WWE spots that we've seen before. You know, Roman hits a barricade. Bryan hits a beautiful swan dive at some point. Roman hits, at the end of the match, a huge power bomb. Gets Daniel Bryan in a guillotine. That's that. The match is over. Roman wins, and Roman wins clean. Okay? He wins clean, which is something that a lot of people were excited about, and I myself am excited about. It makes the loss even more meaningful. And then after the match, Cesaro, they want to beat down on Daniel Bryan some more. Cesaro runs in. He gets blindsided by Jay, and then Jay actually hangs on to Cesaro as Roman Reigns delivers a concerto onto Daniel Bryan as Cesaro looks on, going, "No, my friend, don't do this to Daniel Bryan, no." You know, that's how Cesaro sounds.
Hello, I am Cesaro. I am from Switzerland. I like coffee and the Swiss things, and my nipples are unusually large.
AK Germany 96 has become a member of the channel. Thank you very much, AK Germany. Hope you join us later for the post show as well. He does sound Cesaro does sound oddly like Kermit. I don't. When you pay attention, I don't make this shit up. Here's another thing. Here's another thing I liked about this. Something I gripe a lot about is, when I'm trying to say too many things at once. The post-match shenanigans, the post-match angle was fun. I thought it was good. It was a good idea. And you know what? They didn't do it to end the match. They waited till the match was over, then they did the angle. Because in WWE, they really like to interrupt an ending. Oh, DQ, let's throw this match out, whatever, and have the angle affect the conclusion of the match. But look at what they did here. They ended the match. They concluded the match and then moved on to the post-match angle, and I wish they did that more often, because for me, it is much more effective, much more interesting. You stay excited about the match, and you stay into the match, and then you get a good post-match angle. I dug this. I thought this was really that was really good. So that's it. I thought this was really good. Anakin GMT left us a super chat. Thank you very much. Anakin says, "My gosh, watch him play Uno to properly imitate him."
I am Cesaro. Yeah! I am the Swiss Superman. I speak French, English, Italian, and German. I am a polyglot.
That's how he sounds. I mean, pay attention. It's like, he's like, he'll play a
+2 blue. In French, we say +2 bleu.
That's how he sounds like. So of course, weirdly enough, strangely enough, reports start circulating then that Daniel Bryan's contract was up with that very edition of SmackDown. What? No kidding. Really? what a coincidence. It's almost as if they're planning all of this. Huh. Look, and I know the reports come from reputable sources. And I'm going to tell you one thing. Until I see Daniel Bryan wrestling in any other promotion that is not affiliated with WWE, I am not buying this for a single solitary second. I'm not. All of this has been planned to perfection. Right up until I swear to God, if Daniel Bryan, right, that Daniel Bryan guy, if he hadn't started doing a dream match scenarios before WrestleMania, I probably would been like, oh shit, Daniel Bryan's contract is up. Oh wow, okay, that's a big deal. But they've been building to it. They've been building to this. They've been working the smarts, the marks, whoever you want to call them. They've been working us. Daniel Bryan's been doing wrestling for a long, long time, and he listens to the fans. He's connected to the fans. He knows what makes them tick. This is all his wheelhouse. Going around saying, "Oh yes, this and that, and yes, sir, I've got this situation under control, and I want to go fight Darby Allin, and I want to go fight Kazuchika Okada." And it still seems all too convenient to me. And I'm telling you guys, until Daniel Bryan, until both of his feet are in another wrestling promotion, I'm not buying it. I am not buying it. And in the meantime, I am in the shit or get off the pot crowd. There's a lot of people who are on that side of the fence, and this is where I am now with Daniel Bryan. God bless him. No one wrestles like him. He's one of the greatest talents that we will have had the chance, the privilege of watching wrestle over the past 20 years or so. And even to this day, no one wrestles like Daniel Bryan in his style. No one wrestles with such reckless precision, I guess you'd call it. Recklessness and precision in what he does than he does. The intensity, the velocity with which he performs his moves. No one still today can perfectly emulate a Daniel Bryan or a Bryan Danielson, whatever you want to call him. We are privileged to have seen this guy wrestle. And if he goes out into the world, it is going to be fantastic. And he's in a position where he could do that. He's literally in a position to have a John Moxley-esque post WWE career, where he could even sign with the company, but be like, hey, you know what? I'll sign with you, but I'm going to go spend 3 months in Japan a year. He could do whatever he wants. If he wanted to go do a spring break, a GCW Joey Janela spring break, or something to that effect, and just be like, hey, you know what? I just want to wrestle for the shit of it, just to have an indie crowd and have a lot of fun. Give me $200, we'll be fine. Like, pay for my hotel for me and Bree and Birdie and the other kid. I can never remember his other kid's name. I'm sorry. But if he could do that. He could go sign with fucking Pro Wrestling Noah. He could go back to Ring of Honor. Of course, AEW. He could do anything that he wants. He could literally have a Jon Moxley career at this point. And why wouldn't he? And when I was on Jesse Velasquez's podcast, Jesse brought up an extremely good point, a terrifyingly good point, where he said that, you know, Daniel Bryan has said in the past that he wants to leave the wrestling business in a better place than when he came in. And look at what he's been trying to do since the last 12 months or so, working with guys who seldom get chances, right? His work with Drew Gulak, for instance. And look at him trying to get Cesaro over. This is what he wants to do. He wants to leave when he leaves wrestling, he wants it to be in a better spot. What better thing that he could do than to go out into the world of wrestling at large and wrestle everywhere, leave his mark everywhere, cement our boy's legacy, and really elevate wrestling everywhere. And I think that's something that speaks to him from what we know, from the public persona that Daniel Bryan allows us to see in his interviews and what he conducts. I think that's possible, but he has to do it at this point because I'm not buying it anymore. I'm very cautious about the For Bryan door at this point because we've been teased with it twice in my memory, in my recollection. It could be anything. Like, we don't. I can tell you one thing is that WWE is going to bend forward for him. If you know what I am talking about, they're going to do everything in their power to sign him, to lock him down. They know what they have with Daniel Bryan. They do. They understand his star power. They're going to do everything to hang on to him. My God, man. Like, they were clueless with Samoa Joe. They don't understand. They never understood how special a talent they had with Samoa Joe, but they understand it with Daniel Bryan. Anakin JMT left us a super chat. Thank you very much again, Anakin. I appreciate it. He says, to be fair, they gave Ambrose a proper send-off, and, well, you know. Yeah, well, they did allow John Moxley, Dean Ambrose to have I guess a farewell tour to some degree, which was very, very classy of them and a little unusual, right? Not necessarily something that you expect from them, but yeah, cool. But like, storyline right now, Daniel Bryan, has been kicked off of SmackDown. I'm really expecting him to show up on Raw this Monday. Very, very frankly, I really don't buy the contract stuff. I don't buy the contract stuff. Oh, it came up specifically. It was up on SmackDown, or was the report that, or he was possibly working without a contract? I don't remember, but it's fucking convenient, I'll tell you that much. DGMC left us a super chat. Thank you very much. He says, over under, Bryan leaves to wrestle bears with Khabib. Oh, over under, like, or how many bears? That should be our over under. How many bears will Bryan Danielson and Khabib Kabulsabov, I can never remember how to pronounce his last name. How many bears will they wrestle? Over under. I say 3. That's my over under. Hey, you know who's really well booked in WWE right now? I want you to think about it. For a second. Who is really, really well booked in WWE right now? Give yourself a second to think about it. Like, Let's see. Who's really well booked? Charlotte? Yeah, sure. Yeah. Bobby Lashley? Yeah, no. Not a bad idea. But you know who else is really, 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 really well booked? Nia Jax. And it came to me in a dream.
Oh, yeah.
An awful dream. Nia is involved in 4 stories on the wrestling programming that WWE offers us. Her relationship with Reginald. Her budding disagreements with Shayna Baszler, which is kind of tied into Reginald, but also not. It's a bigger story. That thing with Mandy Rose and Dana Brooke making fun of her tripping over herself. And she's in a feud with Tamina. She has a 65% win record. She's in 2021. She's only lost 8 times. And there were some times that she lost. And then when she lost, it was in a tag team and Shayna Baszler was taking the pin. She was taking the pin. Tamina is the only wrestler who has pinned her twice, who's beaten her twice. Nia Jax, man. And you know why. You know why Tamina is the one getting the pins, right? She's goddamn huge, pal. Yeah, she's huge. She can take out another huge one. What the fuck is... That blows my mind. And not even Baron Corbin is booked better than her right now. If that means anything to you. Anyway, that was just a thought. Let's move on. I want to point out something, and I'm going to warm soda this one. Mustafa Ali and Ricochet are doing... They've been confined to main event for some reason, right? And they've been making the most of it because they've been producing promos for themselves, putting it on social media, and getting people to sort of like tune in and be like, hey, you know what? This actually kind of rules. Let's get to it. You know, it's like, let's get into it. You know, it's like, let's get people excited about our main event feud because goddamn, they're not doing anything with us on main, right? Okay, sure. Cool with that. It's cool on one end, but it's also depressing on the other because the biggest wrestling company in the world, billion-dollar media conglomerate, World Wrestling Entertainment, cannot produce proper segments for these two chaps who are exciting young talent, who are currently in their prime, and that are completely being trashed and misused in WWE. Wrestlers who have organic followings on all social media platforms. And there they are, just doing their thing all by themselves for main event, which is a glorified recap show. I mean, I don't know if you guys watch main event or if you've watched it recently or if you even remember its format. It's essentially a show where you wrap up the week in WWE. And I think it's sad. Because both of these guys deserve a hell of a lot better. First and foremost, from the company they work with, and as far as pushes go, but when I saw this, I sort of took a step back, and I'm like, hey, you know what? If this, what makes this sad is because main event is essentially a recap show with 2 matches, but it's essentially a recap show. If WWE treated, and this is me just thinking out loud and sharing these thoughts with you. If WWE treated main event like AEW treats Dark or Elevation, and instead of giving us fucking content that we've already seen, that you don't necessarily want to see, they put on talent that they can't get on the main shows, that they want to give more TV time to, they want to create new buzz around new stars that they have on the main roster and that they're not using. Not just talking about NXT, although they could open it up to NXT. Get the NXT, the PC people onto main event to job out to more established stars. Have Elias win a couple of matches on main event instead of always fucking losing and coming off like a complete chump. You know what I'm saying? My point is that if WWE treated main event more like AEW treats its YouTube shows, I think there'd be something there. There'd be something much more palpable and interesting to watch. And people would find where Main Event airs, first and foremost, and actually watch it. It's just weird to me. So Eva Marie is coming back. Okay, so Eva Marie, a woman who has botched as often as she threw clotheslines in the ring. A legitimately terrible professional wrestler. Legitimately terrible. A woman who we will remember as one of the greatest bad wrestlers in the history of wrestling. She could not sell. She could not wrestle. I think she could barely cut a promo. Her promos were dry and robotic. Oh, but Warren. Yes. But Warren, all promos in WWE sound wooden and contrived. You're right. But she had a special level of wooden and contrived. That was all hers. And one of my absolute favorite Eva Marie moments in all of her illustrious WWE tenure was in NXT. She's fighting Bayley, Queen of the Huggers, and Bayley is doing she's doing a float move, on the body when the one wrestler's on their flat on their stomach and the other one goes on top and sort of just floats around in a circular pattern around it. And so Bayley's doing that, sort of like to confuse her. And Eva Marie is tapping. She's tapping. She's like, tap that. She's tapping out. Bayley doesn't have a move on her. She's just floating on her. Boop, boop, boop. Going in circles around her. Eva Marie's there tapping. And she's looking at the referee and she's going, I am tapping out. And the referee's like, nah, man, this ain't the finish. It is one of the most glorious things. And yet they're bringing her back. Now, here's the thing. I am not, that was not Antonio Banderas. I am not going to pile on. Okay, I'm not even mad that she's back. I just think it's hilarious. But the one thing, because look, let's see in what capacity they decide to use her. WWE has been wanting to do a sexy girl gimmick for a while now, right? Right? You remember they tried with Liv Morgan. You remember that with the bathtub stuff? Emelina before that. And then they swung back around to Carmella. And Carmella, not that long ago on the Bella's podcast, she sort of alluded to the fact that, the sexy gimmick, I'm done with it, So they've been wanting to do this for a while. So I really want to see what Eva Marie is all about now. I'm not gonna lie, if they put her in the ring and she's just as terrible, there's just gonna be something extremely humorous about it all. There's gonna be something fundamentally funny. But this is where my problem is, and it's all a question of optics. It is all a question of optics. Johnny Laurinaitis, Johnny Ace, comes back to the company. We fire Mickie James, Billy Kay, Peyton Royce, Chelsea Green, and we bring back fucking Eva Marie. Now, you can say what you want about Billy Kay and Peyton and their in-ring skills, okay? We can talk about that. We can definitely have a conversation regarding whether the Iconics were fair, good wrestlers, or less. That fine. But they could wrestle. They could. And they didn't fucking tap out when someone was doing a body spin on them. The problem here is these optics. John Laurinaitis, the guy of the Divas era, right, who, has campaigned to keep the Divas matches short, to get models instead of athletes. He's that guy. Back in power into talent relations in WWE, and suddenly this happens. Get rid of Mickie James, who is a legend in the sport, and who still has something to give, and could be an asset on any level of your wrestling organization. You kick her out. Billy and Peyton, again, we can talk about their wrestling all we want, but they were in a sports entertainment environment. Perfect fit. Chelsea Green didn't even have a chance to shine in WWE. Wasn't even given the proper opportunity to stretch her legs. And she's out of there. But all wrestlers, all women that could go, and you decide to bring in Eva Marie. Was it last week I was talking about how shit the women's division is in the World Wrestling Entertainment these days? We are going to put a pin on this day in May. Not this day, Monday, which would make it the 3rd. The Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, the 3rd, the 4th, the 2nd. Whenever Monday was, that's the 3rd, right? Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. That's it, the 3rd. Put a pin on Monday the 3rd, which was when they announced Eva Marie coming back, and we are going to circle back to this. We are going to look back in a year, how the women's division in WWE is doing, and if Eva Marie returning isn't the ground zero situation about a change of heart in regards to the women's division, I don't know what is. And again, just see what's going to happen. So hopefully it won't. But this whole evolution thing, that's kind of a slap in the face. I don't like it. I think it's kind of bad. But we can also talk about good things in regards to WWE. Candice LeRae finally won some gold. Our girl Candice, for whom we stand here at WarrenHayes HQ, finally got her first taste of WWE gold since working for them since 2017 when she did the Mae Young Classic. And it's been a long time coming for Candice. A legitimate star on the independent circuit, a woman who established herself as being fearless. Candice LeRae is tougher than you is not just something I like to spit out once in a while. That was her thing. That was her identity, was her catchphrase. It was her slogan, whatever you want to call it. Finally, she gets gold. Tag team championship with Indy Hartwell in a fun match that they had on top of that. But honestly, it's about damn time. What were they doing with her back in 2018? Not much. Like I said, she was doing the rounds. She was doing the house show rounds, but she wasn't much more than Johnny Gargano's wife, right? That's pretty much all she was. And now they finally give her they finally give her something. They finally give her some gold. Couldn't be happier. I couldn't be happier. I just wanted to point that out because she's great. So there you go. Evan Wright left us a super chat. Thank you very much, Evan. He says Bryan Danielson's retirement tour ends with Daniel Garcia. I wanted to say Gracia, but no, Daniel Garcia. Yeah. That'd be great. I mean, there's a lot of comparisons, right, that are being made between Garcia and Danielson. Garcia's he is a hot commodity on the independent circuit right now. And I hope he stays there a while. I'll cross my fingers, and I hope that we get to a point where he will become, that he won't sign to someone too quickly. Let his stock rise. And I think a lot of people on the independent circuit need to do that. I will never blame any independent wrestler within the past 18 months or so who accepted an offer to go work for a wrestling company because the indies weren't running at full steam. Jesus, I can't blame anyone to have done what they can to survive COVID. But as shows start opening back up and there seems to be a lot more out there, more and more, I hope people take their time. That's what I hope. That would be that would be a full circle thing. Oh man, I hadn't even thought about that. Bryan Danielson and Daniel Bryan versus Daniel Garcia. Holy shit. That'd be a good one. Let's start talking about Dynamite. Let's talk about QT Marshall and Cody Rhodes. No, I'm not talking about that yet. This was a fine match, and it's more of a thought than an actual observation about the match, because I thought the match was fine. You know, nothing. Here's the thing, and I was talking to Kristen about this when the show, when Dynamite was done last night, as far as the whole Blood and Guts match show went. You know, the matches on the undercard were fine. Were good matches, fun matches. Nothing to outshine the main event. That was really built. When I say that card really was built to get to a point where to really warm us up. Give us some interesting matches. They had stakes, they had importance, but nothing to outshine the main event. And that's an old school card to me, right? You have your other matches that, you know, keep the crowd interested, get them hot, whatever, but you don't outshine the main event. And I feel that that's what happened with Dynamite yesterday. Just as a side note. Want to say hello to Jason PS3, by the way, and John Bear Gaming. Welcome to the chat, both of y'all. So back to QT versus Cody. I thought it was fine. I don't think it was anything out of the ordinary. I love QT's German suplexes. I love it. I thought it was great. I love the back and forth with the pile driver. Cody won with the figure four. You know, the crossroads ain't what it used to be. And of course I'm kidding, you know, because I dig the idea in AEW that you don't, you know, you have finishers, but you don't necessarily have to use them every time to finish off your opponents. That's fine. And I still dig this idea of QT Marshall being this, you know, this unassuming mob boss kind of character. But I'm not gonna lie. After the match, Anthony Ogogo comes out and liver punches our boy Cody, and then drapes him in the Union Jack, and is like, hey, "Good night, everyone. I'm off to not play Game Boy and have sex with my wife." I'm going off on too many tangents, but I have to touch on this. If not, I think Anthony Ogogo has pinpointed exactly how to get proper heat in 2021 than to go out and say, I am not a nerd. Nerds. I am the guy who takes you nerds and stuffs you into lockers at school. That's what I am. And I love that shit. He is legitimately, he's an internet tough guy come to life. Because his Twitter post, and even if they are true, I think it's even funnier. then that means the guy's a literally, if they are true, and he's like, I don't play Game Boy and I have sex with my wife, and these are things that he really wants to tell people, then he is an absolute douchebag and completely detestable. But otherwise, I think he gets it. I think he sees the environment, he sees the geeks, he sees all these people with their video games and whatnot, and maybe it bothers him, maybe it doesn't, but by God, if he ain't getting heat, I don't know what that is. People took those tweets really, really seriously. I was crying. I thought it was great shit. Anyway, so back to the match. Ogogo after the match, like I said, lays out Cody. So Cody versus Ogogo coming up. It's a little down, going down the road here. Now, my only fear, and this is my only fear, because I thought the result of the match was a little strange. Because QT losing, I don't think was... It's an interesting booking decision. But then Ogogo comes out and lays him out. So what I'm hoping is that Ogogo manhandles Cody and is like, well, here's your star, right? Because I think there's more value in promoting Cody versus Ogogo than with QT Marshall. And no disrespect to QT Marshall, he doesn't have the star quality. He's a little older in age. You might as well invest in one of your younger guys, especially one who has a look and a name like Anthony Ogogo does. So I'm assuming that's the path. But my fear is that Cody is going to go through the factory and nexus them effectively. That's my fear. I'm not saying, he's undoubtedly going to do that because it's Cody Rhodes. Cody Rhodes is always on the television show all the time. He doesn't leave any room for anyone else. Like that article, weird ass, stupid ass article that popped up on Deadspin a couple of hours before I started the show today, and I'm like, what the hell are we? Guy comes, he writes an article about how Cody Rhodes takes up too much spot and too much space on Dynamite, and he publishes the article the day after Cody Rhodes returns to AEW after being gone for like over a month or something like that. It's like, anyway. So my fear is that Cody would nexus the factory. That's my only fear. But what's tempering it is AEW's commitment to its development, to its developmental talent, to the new guys that they're trying to put forward. Why would they put effort in creating a stable of younger guys under QT to immediately feed them to Cody, to elevate Cody? Cody doesn't need to beat up a bunch of young guys. Just saying. It's a fear. That's what I'm hoping that will not happen. But taking out QT like that, I'm like, well, okay, I get it, but it's also kind of suspicious. Want to say hello to Kristen Ashley, the first lady of the MrWarrenHayes show. Yeah. Oh, yeah. And on that note, Anakin JMT left us a super chat. Thank you very much, Anakin. He says, what is that tonight? Four accents? Brother, I trained in the theatrical arts. I have range. I haven't even begun to touch the range that I have accessible through my mortal coil. Let's keep track. 4 accents, and we're going. Next, let's keep talking about Dynamite last night. Let's talk about The Kenny Omega versus Orange Cassidy being announced for Double or Nothing. Anthony Gaston, welcome to the chat. It's good to see you. So it was announced, despite Kenny Omega's really weird promo last night. Really, really strange. A little cornball, a little, very video game villainy. I don't know. I'm a little on the fence on it, but we got out of the promo last night that next week we're getting. Okay, I said Orange Cassidy and Kenny Omega has been announced. It's not true. That's an editorial. We get the announcement that next week we're getting Pac versus Orange Cassidy, which is going to rule, FYI. Winner of the match gets a shot at the World Championship. Kenny Omega basically at Double or Nothing. Now, why am I saying Orange Cassidy is going to... It was announced that Orange Cassidy is going to take on Kenny Omega. It's because Kenny Omega started trash talking. He was put over Pac, saying Pac is a great wrestler, so on and so forth, but then started trashing Orange Cassidy. Who comes out? Orange Cassidy. Orange Cassidy and it just stands there as Kenny Omega runs him down, says you're not worthy, you're a joke, and so on and so forth. Fuck off, basically. You're not going to get a shot at my title. You're not ready for, you're not on my level, all that stuff. However, sorry about that. Orange Cassidy just stood there and took it because he's Orange Cassidy and doesn't really care. To me, that telegraphs the ending of the match next week. Is that a bad thing? Not necessarily. There's, in many times in wrestling, it's not about the destination, it's about the voyage, right? So that you can still have an excellent match despite the fact that you might be expecting a certain result to happen. And AEW might swerve us, but this feels like they're setting everything up, right? For Orange Cassidy to win, and we're going to get Orange Cassidy versus Kenny Omega, which I think is a fantastic idea because they announced, when I say they, I mean AEW, specifically Tony Khan, they announced that they are going to be opening Double or Nothing to a full 100% capacity audience. And I don't think you could walk into Double or Nothing and have a more fan-friendly main event than Kenny Omega versus Orange Cassidy, who people are just going to be too excited to cheer for regardless. Like, it's going to be it's a smart move. See people saying Orange Cassidy isn't ready to be, but no, he's not. And that's kind of the point, where Kenny Omega still is going to defend his title against someone who might not be ready, but might give him a run for his money. And I think people are going to be surprised at how good this match is going to turn out to be. Because Orange Cassidy, when it's time, turns it up max power, and Kenny Omega's fantastic. So this has all the makings of a really, really fun match, and one that we haven't seen yet on this level. We've seen Pac versus Kenny a couple of times at this point, and fantastic matches, don't get me wrong. One of the best TV matches was last year in their fucking ladder match, 2 out of 3 match, Iron Man match. I can't forget the stipulation. It wasn't a ladder. I think it was an Iron Man match for the both of them. It was an amazing match, but we've seen it. Why not give us something fresh like this? Why not give a good transitional feud or title defense for Kenny Omega like Orange Cassidy, who is like, Orange Cassidy's bulletproof. You can do anything with him. You can do absolutely anything with him. And he'll be bulletproof. He's not going to lose prestige. It's going to be fine. It's going to be fine. And I think it's smart to save Pac for something more down the line. Maybe taking a legitimate title shot at some point. I think it's good to save him for a little further down the line. So I think I'm excited at the prospect of Kenny Omega versus Orange Cassidy. I think it's a quintessential AEW main event. I really do. I think it defines AEW perfectly. I think it's good. But really quickly, as far as a full audience for Double or Nothing, 100% audience, and then on top of that, Tony Khan announcing that they're making a full weekend out of Double or Nothing this year. Fan experience on Saturday, something live on the Friday. I don't like it. That I don't like. That bothers me. I know COVID cases are going down. I know people are getting vaccinated, but we're still in it, folks. And the UFC did it. I don't give a shit. I don't give a shit who's done it before. I think it was stupid when the UFC did it. I think this ain't great either. You know, you're just creating conditions for more people to get sick. And, you know, even if the protocols and people are, you know, it's, well, you have to wear your mask and so on and so forth. People are not, I don't trust people. I just don't. I don't trust other people. You saw it last night when people were all singing Chris Jericho's theme song. They all had their masks off. Well, not all, but there was a bunch of people who had their masks off and were like singing along. And you don't have to take your mask off to sing along. I personally think it's too soon. And if this was TK going, like the only thing I can see, there's a couple of considerations. Of course, I understand that AEW wants to go back to making to doing live gates soon because they want the money. Of course they do. I can understand that. Is that a motivation? Sure. Okay, well, let's do it. You know, I don't understand why they felt like they had to go to a full 100%, but all right, whatever. Was this Tony Khan just wanting to go to Vince and like, hey, I did it first, Vince. I did it before you. I'm not crazy about it. I'm not gonna lie. I don't think it's a weird decision, and I think anyone who decides to go live, it's a weird decision. And I hope you're vaccinated, and I hope you take precautions, and I hope you take precautions for the people that you care about when you go home after the show. Fuck, we even saw it on indie shows, you know, where the collective last fall was supposed to be 2 meters and all the time, and all of a sudden you have people standing next to each other everywhere. No one's wearing masks. You're like, what the fuck is going on? It's a live crowd. It's a mass of people. I'm not even ready to go to Walmart yet. Yeah, that's where I'm at. I don't think it's a great move. I really don't. And look at look at what happened in New Japan. That's been lauded for its COVID precautions and its their protocols, being very careful. They had to take off like 8 guys from the card this week because of risk of exposure. Best way to not spread or is the best way to contain it and not spread it is to not create events. Not create gatherings. I don't know. I want to say hello to Louis-Olivier Pelletier. Bonsoir. Louis-Olivier Pelletier. And, well, that's the show, everyone. Thank you, everyone, for coming. It was great seeing you. Nice talking to you. Hope you have a great time. Leave a comment below. Nah, I'm gonna talk about blood and guts. What the fuck are you talking about? What are you talking about? I'm not going away without talking about blood and guts. You think I'm stupid? You think I'm a new podcaster? I'm gonna talk 10 minutes about Eva Marie. I'm not gonna talk about blood and guts. Think I'm new at this? Yeah, it's my heel turn. I'm starting my heel turn tonight. Thank you, everyone, by the way, just for joining me tonight. And I don't take the time enough to thank you as I'm going along in the show. Everyone who joins us live, I really, really appreciate everyone joining me and hanging around tonight. And if you like what you're seeing, give the video a like and share it out there. Tell people I'm about to talk about blood and guts. Oh, what a controversial situation we got on our hands and it's weird that there's so much controversy for such a great match. No, my heel turn is starting tonight. Stop distracting me, chat. I just told you I like you guys. Gals. Cut that shit out. Did I think the blood and guts match was great? Yes. You had 8 guys in that match, in a legit War Games match. Bob Culture, good to see you. Welcome to the chat. So 8 guys beating the hell out of each other in a 10 guys. Why did I say 8? There's 10 guys. See, I'm an English major, okay? I'm an English major. I come here and I'm like, numbers aren't my thing. My fiance, she's the numbers person in the couple. She handles the additions and the subtractions and the long divisions and the short multiplications and the carrying ones to twos and square roots and pi and all that. She handles that. Me, I'm the words guy. What was I saying? There's 10 guys in this fucking match. And it was great. I thought this was good. Bunch of guys beating the shit out of each other. Just like Dusty ordained. This is what Dusty wanted. And it was very much in the spirit of those matches. It's just brutal. It's violence, blood, everything, everyone beating the shit out of each other. Sammy Guevara, a shining star in all of this. Acer 5000, welcome to the chat. Sammy Guevara, shining star throughout this entire situation. Hits a great coast to coast. That double springboard cutter that he hit. Fantastic stuff. Wardlow. I can't be the only guy who had chills when fucking Wardlow walked in. And he started just decimating everyone. Chat, can you confirm to me? Can you confirm that Wardlow was the only guy who didn't juice? Because I talked about it again on Jesse's podcast, and I was like, I wouldn't be surprised that Wardlow is the only guy who won't blade, and he's the only guy who didn't blade, and he'll look even more like a monster because of it. Right? That's what I'm thinking. I think because I think Spears didn't juice either. Okay. Well, Wardlow didn't. Or anyway. Because that was my prediction. I was like, Wardlow won't bleed. Everyone else they'll be cut, spewing blood. But Wardlow, he'll just be like a fucking monster. Anyway. But Wardlow looked fantastic. And all the little stories that they had set up with the promo last week and over the past couple of weeks, they all had their little moments. They all had moments in the ring that it all came together. It was a beatdown, a brawl, a bloody mess, and I was fucking there for it. I loved it. I thought the match was great. Were there nitpicks? Was this a perfect match? No, I have nitpicks. I think the commercials took a lot out of it. But Warren, this is not a new accent, by the way. Oh, but Warren, yes. They need the commercials, you see, because it is with the commercials that they pay for the free television so that you can enjoy it without having to pay, right? So if they do not do the commercials and you are paying money, would that make you happy, Warren? You complain all the time, Warren, about the stupid shit. This is a stupid shit. Hang on there, Anthony Suter of Smart to Death. Give me a second here. No, I don't think it's a bad criticism to give them, because the commercials did take away. Oh, God bless all of you who are watching it on Fight TV and who took the opportunity to tell me, well, I'm watching it on Fight TV. Okay, congratulations. So I'm glad you got a fantastic experience. Me, it took away a little bit. Quite frankly, they could have done... They could have stacked the commercials earlier. They could have done some promotional considerations. They could have done some sponsorships during the match. They could have done a whole bunch of different things, but they decided to pepper it with commercials. Fine. It's not that big a deal. It's not a game changer for me, but it did take away pour moi. It did take away from my experience of this match. All right? It's not that big a deal. But people are like, well, you bitch, a commercial. I understand what, guys, people explaining to me on Twitter how commercials work. Because that's how they pay for the show. Christ, I'm 47 years old. You don't think I understand how TV works at this point? And then we get to the ending of the match, right? We get to the ending. Where MJF climbs to the top of the cage. Jericho follows him, and they do things. There's walls of Jericho that happens, but then MJF hits Jericho in the balls of Jericho, and then that allows what's his name, MJF, to take Jericho to the side of the ring and sort of like threaten to the side of the cage and threaten to throw him off. Sammy Guevara and everyone's panicking on the outside, and Sammy's like, "No, we surrender. Don't throw my boy off." But the ref calls for the match, but MJF tosses him over. Chris Jericho falls off the cage through concrete. Well, onto crash pads. Let's just call it what it is, okay? It's fine. Now, this is where the controversy begins. Because apparently, if you didn't like the ending of the match, if you didn't like the ending of Blood and Guts, then that necessarily means you wanted Chris Jericho to die. You wanted Chris Jericho to collapse to fall on concrete, and you're a horrible psychotic person. And I don't know who tweeted that out. I don't know what influencer, what talking head, what radio host, what podcast host. I don't know who said that to trigger that response on Twitter. It was either that or Twitter doing some preemptive striking towards someone who might think. I don't know what the ground zero was for that absolutely wild and insane leap of logic, but that's where we were. And I got my fair share of people coming after me because I didn't care much for the crash pad ending. That instantly I'm like, I wanted Chris Jericho to fall flat on his back directly on the concrete floor, split his head open proper, and never wrestle again. That's clearly what I wanted. And that's not, the crash pad isn't even my issue with the ending. Let me try and work. Let's try and work my way here. Let's see here. First of all, Anakin left us a super chat. Thank you very much, Anakin. He says, apparently deals like that, talking about advertising deals, have to be worked out way in advance, so they probably didn't have time to get one made. Hopefully next time. Sure. Okay. I don't know how long. Maybe. I could be. But, I mean, it's not as if they started promoting Blood and Guts like 10 days ago. And they probably had this penciled in the books a while back as well. Anyway, I'm just saying. But thank you. Thank you for the super chat. Anyway, but regardless, they don't even have to do it if they don't want to. All I'm saying is that it took me a bit out of it. But semantics. Let's move on. The first question that I have in regards to MJF going to the top of the cage and Jericho following. The first question that comes to mind to me is why? Why did Chris Jericho go up the cage? He's with his team. MJF has climbed to the top of the cage, leaving his entire team at a disadvantage. If I'm Chris Jericho, wily, 25-year veteran, Chris Jericho, if I am he, or 30-year, I don't remember the length of his career, decades of professional wrestling experience in his belt, I'm like, well, I'm going to win this match. You know, I'll just go over here and do it. I'll just end the match. They make such a big deal out of giving the first wrestler, thank you, it is 30, giving they make such a big deal out of giving one team a one-man advantage, throughout the entire War Games match, that when you do have an advantage, it's supposed to be a big deal. So he's like if I'm him, my first reflex is like, okay, you stay up there, I'm gonna win this match, and then I'm gonna come get you. I'm gonna prove that you're a chicken shit because you abandoned your team, and I'm smarter than you. This is a veteran, okay? He's a veteran of the business. So I get the idea that this was a blood feud between MJF and Chris Jericho. I 100% get it. That it was about the two of them settling this grudge that they have. But this isn't a grudge match situation. It's about their teams. It's about the teams. If it really was about Chris and MJF, then we should have had Chris versus MJF. But no, we got a team thing. The thing here is that you want your team to win. Now, does that mean that suddenly, because he's a babyface, Chris Jericho sort of loses an edge? And he's not quite as smart as he thinks he is? I don't know. Like, this is debatable. And I will remain open and not necessarily destroy anyone. Not that I destroy people on a regular basis, but I won't go after anyone who maintains like, well, look, to me it made sense because Jericho really hates MJF and went after him. And that's the psychology behind it. I think it's faulty because I think as a professional wrestler, the first thing that you need to do is win a match. We watch wrestling to watch wrestlers win matches, win and lose. That's what you're supposed to do. A guy falls flat on his back, his shoulders are on the mat, you cover that son of a bitch, you try and pin him. That's what you do. So Jericho abandoning the match to go, abandoning the cage, giving up a man advantage. Okay. But I can understand the imagination. I can understand the stretch behind it. It's not that big a deal, but I'm just sharing with all of y'all how I felt about it and what went through my mind. But, it's not that big a deal. Where it becomes a little more of a bigger deal to me is the fact that is the idea that the match concluded on top of the cage as opposed to inside the cage. And that's what bothers me because you have such an incredible duality between the top of the cage and inside the cage. Inside, for the past 35 minutes at that point, 35 minutes, you have guys bleeding their lives out. You've got, the rings are stained. You've got gashes. Sammy Guevara's back is shit. It's like, it's a horrible, visceral vision that you have there. The violence and everything was, everything is gruesome. We've been in that cage. We were with these wrestlers. Why would you take the action out of it and then have like submissions and stuff happening on top of the cage in this new environment that feels open? You lose the claustrophobia. You lose the idea, the vision of all these bleeding bodies everywhere. That to me snapped what I was feeling watching the match. I was like, wait, what's going on? What? Okay, they're at the top of the cage, but everything is so gritty and gruesome, And while Jericho and MJF are going at the top, are going after each other at the top, there's still 8 more guys. I'm terrible at math. 8 more guys in the ring that are technically still fighting with each other, trying to get the pin. But now all our attention is focused up there. So again, if we're talking about a grudge match between Chris Jericho and MJF, then that's okay. We to focus on those two. But this was a team thing. What happens with the other 8 guys in the ring in the meantime? And why did they decide to Did they decide to stop fighting? Did none of them decide to, while everyone was gawking up, why didn't Dax just like come up behind Santana and roll him up for a pin? Did no one think about doing that? Just a disconnect where I'm like, this is a little weird. And this is where it loses me. This is where it loses me. And I don't fantasy book. I don't fantasy book all that much, all right? I know there's no pinfalls. I was just, the roll up. Here's the thing. I don't fantasy book much. But if you had asked me, Warren, how would you have concluded the War Games match, the Blood and Guts match? I would have done a callback to when the Pinnacle started. I would have had the Pinnacle stuff some part of the ring with a duffel bag with instruments of like bludgeoning instruments, the kendo sticks, nightsticks, whatever, and handcuffs. And just like when the Pinnacle first came together, they handcuff the Inner Circle together. Or not together, but to the chain fence, and then they isolate Chris Jericho. They handcuff him, whatever, and MJF just beats the shit out of him. Beats the shit out of Chris Jericho until Chris Jericho passes out in his own blood and the match is ended. Or have Sammy call for the submission and say, no, we're done. And you would have told a perfect story. As it begun, it ends the same way. And we all would have stayed in the ring. Would have all been the same violent, bloody action. Then I'm not a booker, right? So it's fine. That's what irked me the most. The crash pad, in and about itself, just added something. Look, it's not even the crash pad thing all that much. And I think this has to do a lot with production as opposed to the wrestlers, as opposed to the idea. I think it has to do a lot with production. I don't think the camera shots were very flattering. I think they should have done wide angles. They shouldn't have come in as close. There was a way for the crash pad to not look like a crash pad at this very moment here. There were ways to do that, and I think they kind of dropped the ball on it. Especially different when everything is so real and bloody and visceral in the ring. When you see Chris Jericho landing on the crash pad, you're like, wow, okay. That doesn't look as real as what was happening in the ring. Semantics. Just throwing that out there. But I didn't want Chris Jericho to die. I didn't want him to go through a stack of tables. That's not the point. In fact, I'm going to tell you guys this. I didn't even want him to be thrown off the cage. And again, to be triply honest with you, when is the last time that you guys really have a vision imprinted in your mind of a guy being thrown off a cage? And think about it for a second, and I am convinced the first person that you thought of is Mick Foley, an Undertaker, Hell in a Cell. That's the one we all think about. That was pretty much one of the first, the most memorable. There have been tons of guys and gals who have been thrown off cages since, and they don't show up in highlight reels. We don't even talk about them we talk about them for the next day after the pay-per-view, and that's that. We don't even talk about it anymore. How many people remember Rikishi being thrown off Hell in a Cell by Undertaker? But yet he did that. Do y'all remember Braun Strowman throwing Kevin Owens off the ring? Off the cage? Do you remember Dean Ambrose and Seth Rollins falling off the cage as well? These are not like moments or like, oh my God, I remember this. It's been done multiple times. And like anything in wrestling, if you do the same thing over and over and over again, it loses its impact. It's not AEW's fault. It's WWE's fault for feeling like, you know, whenever you have a Hell in a Cell or a steel cage or something like that, someone has to fly off of it. And then we're like, oh my God, he did it. He's the guy, he flew off the cage. And we're going to talk about it on our podcast the next day. And then the day after that, it's relegated to memory. And WWE doesn't even pull out those shots anymore. They don't even add them to their highlight reels. They'll always go back to Undertaker McFoley, Undertaker McFoley, Undertaker McFoley. But there are so many guys and gals who have fallen off cages, and we don't remember them. So even the impact, like the dramatic impact of throwing someone off a cage, I would argue that it doesn't even have that drama about it anymore. Regardless, I would have been fine without the spot. Would have been 100% okay without the spot. Everything was already brutal. Everything was already bloody and violent. They could have doubled down on that instead of doing this spot, which felt a little shoehorned. Because the intensity, the build, the drama was all in the ring, was all inside the ring. I don't know. That said, you know, I felt like I had to talk a lot about it because there's been a lot of people talking about it and there's been a lot of shit takes. And I'm not saying that my takes aren't shit. They're probably shit for someone out there, and that's completely okay. We're all entitled. We can all have our own opinions, right? And you're here to listen to mine, and this is what I thought. I still enjoyed the match a tremendous deal. It's the kind of match that I'll probably want to watch again. Would I have ended it like that? No. Did the ending ruin the match for me? No, come on. Did I want Chris Jericho to die? Fuck, come on. Jesus, people. No one wanted Chris Jericho to die. But it was a good, solid, old school, fantastic War Games match. And I didn't even talk about my favorite dudes in the match. FTR. They were... you know what? FTR, especially Dax, felt like it looked like they were in Disneyland. You know, it felt like they were... This was their dream come true. They looked happy to be there. They enjoyed every moment of it, like they were drinking this in. And I could tell that this is something that they had been waiting for. And I loved it. And by God did they bleed. My God did Cash Wheeler bleed. I loved it. I thought it was a fantastic match. Thought the ending was flat. Those are my thoughts in regards to not Double or Nothing, but Blood and Guts. But DGMC left us a super chat in regards to Double or Nothing. Thank you very much, DGMC. Says, do you think Blood and Guts should have been done at Double or Nothing? No, I don't. I don't. This probably has to do with the commercials thing. The commercial thing, don't get me wrong, it's a minor gripe. You know, it's just, you say, I would have preferred to see this without commercials. But then you sort of put that out into the world, and then people feel like the need that they have to explain the mechanics of network television to you to make you understand. I'm like, I understand how it works. Doesn't mean that it doesn't bother me. You know? Oh, yeah. It's like when people tell me, what do you mean Jackson Riker's a racist? He's a Marine. He fought for our country. Sure, and salute to him. He's still a racist. You know, it's still the same thing. Even though I understand the mechanics, it still bothers me. But coming back to your question, DGMC, I'm a big fan of the super shows. I'm a big fan of the occasional weekly or not weekly, but, free TV super shows. And I think they need to continue. And they need to have marquee events like this. AEW, from what I understand, last night was first in cable TV for the first time. Fantastic shit. And that, you know what that means to me? That means that they're going to continue putting on marquee events like this. And I'm here for it. And I'm glad that they're going to keep... I was hoping that we're going to keep doing it, despite the fact that NXT was going away. And here they are, circling back around. They're probably going to circle back around to Blood and Guts or anything else. The super shows work. And I'm glad that the world of the super show has made a comeback to wrestling, and that it's going to continue, and that people are into it. Fantastic stuff. I really, really like it. Not that they couldn't do a Blood and Guts match at a future pay-per-view, but I don't think it needed to be at a pay-per-view because I am pro super show. Anakin JMT left us a super chat. Thank you very much, Anakin. Again tonight. Very kind of you, per usual. Thank you so much. Says, seems like people that were fans of the old NWA WCW War Games matches loved it the most, and people more familiar with the NXT version had more issues with it. And I concur. And the opposite is entirely true when it comes to the NXT version of War Games. The opposite is entirely true. People who were familiar with the NWA version, the original Dusty Rhodes vision of it, the guys that saw 92, 93, 94, they look at the War Games that they do in NXT and they're like, this isn't War Games. So, and you know what? That's fine. That's absolutely fine. But yeah, I mean, this is the wrestling that I grew up on. This is the wrestling that was formative for me. So when I see that done so well, reminding me of, Dangerous Alliance versus Sting's team, I'm like, God, this is great shit. It's just fantastic. So yeah, playing into nostalgia, sure. And why not? Especially when they can do it well. There you go. And that was the weekly wrestling inspection. Should I just accept that my podcast is 2 hours now? Should I just stop pretending that I can do this in 90 minutes and just say, yeah, it's a 2-hour show now, folks? Thank you, everyone, for hanging out this evening, for joining me tonight for another edition of the MrWarrenHayes Show. Hey, if you're watching this right now, give the video a like, a thumbs up here on YouTube. That would be super appreciated. If you're watching this after the live show, leave a comment. We're trying to get the streak up, the streak going. 20 comments is what we need to hit to get the streak up to 7. So that would be fantastic. And the more we go on, the more accents I will do, the more I will perform. So there we go. Thank you so much. Thank you again for joining me tonight. If you're first time watching, subscribe. I would appreciate that too. Otherwise, YouTube channel members, hang tight. Keep your notifications open. We are going to start very, very soon. The very first post stream right here for YouTube channel members. So that's going to be starting in a few moments. Otherwise, thank you everyone for joining me once again tonight. I'll see you next time.